ask James Okumu to please come. Please put your hands together. Let's receive James Okumu. He will guide us from here as far as the panel discussion is concerned. Please receive James Okumu properly.
Okay. Well, I'm glad to be here, and I think like everybody else, what Prof said has really done something to me. I felt like I need to go outside and start doing something. And I'm sure all of us feel that way. We want to get into our panel discussion and continue with what we are talking about as we talk about no more excuses, looking at leadership. I've got some 3 amazing ladies that I want to call up on stage, and we will have a conversation with them. So I want to invite, first I want to invite Angie Murenga. Angie Murenga is the CEO, Kingdom Business Solutions. She is also an executive leadership and life coach. Angie, karibu sana. It's good to have you here. Yes, please, you may have your seat. By the way, she has a YouTube channel. She does some very nice work there. Very interesting conversations. So look for her on YouTube. You will find her there. And then next, I want to invite Abby Mango. Abby Mango is a UK-based registered lead fertility specialist nurse. Abby, you are most welcome on stage. And then we have Christine Mwai Mwarandu. Christine is a credit director at Absa Bank Kenya PLC. Welcome. Great. Karibuni sana. It's good to have the 3 of you here. And we want to get into a conversation as we continue with what we've been looking at since morning. And we want to talk about making a difference. Making a difference in my sphere of influence. You know, I was told everybody has influence wherever they are. But talking about excuses, why do leaders sometimes make excuses? Before we get a bit personal and ask you what are some excuses you have made in your leadership journey, Angie, why do you think leaders make excuses?
Is this on? Oh,
Yes.
It is. Wow, I was going to say, get right into it. I think, first of all, coming from our space of the world, I think as Kenyans, or maybe as Africans, but Kenyans so much more, I think it's cultural. We make excuses because we don't want to seem like we're out there, we're always in the front. Even getting personal, when I was thinking about this, I was thinking my own journey, even just growing up. Always being told, you know, you're too much, be quiet, don't speak, you don't know everything. No, but I even hear Americans say nobody likes a know-it-all. You know, just that thing of, so a culture that sort of keeps us silent. So sometimes we may know what to do, but we don't want to look like the one who is in people's faces with all the solutions, knows all the answers. So maybe sort of culturally, because I feel like when all of us, and even the people in this room, leadership is countercultural. There's a place where it's going to come against the culture, or like what the speaker said, that you stand out. So I think sometimes we don't want to stand out, or we don't want to be known like we have all the answers.
Okay. Abby, do you agree, or do you have a different opinion?
I do agree, and I'll just add that I think fear, there is, I don't know where the culture of fear comes from, but that, I think, for a lot of people, stops you short from doing anything, and it gives you excuses that because I'm afraid of this, so the easier thing is just to hide.
Okay.
Could we also say that the fear thing is, what if I'm wrong?
Is it that we've been taught as a leader you can't be wrong?
I think so. Because if you look at our leaders, we place them on a pedestal. I'm thinking from an African context. We place our leaders on a pedestal. They are right. They can never be wrong. And that's not true, isn't it?
Yeah.
So there's no permission to fail, which is also fueling this fear.
Okay. I don't know about the other regions in Africa, but for us here in Kenya, all our parents were number one.
Yeah.
All our parents went to school barefoot and they still had to milk the cows in the morning and fetch the water, and they were still the first ones in school.
Yeah.
They actually never failed at anything. I don't know if it is the same way in the rest of our continent. All our parents went to the same WhatsApp group, eh? Do you think that has affected then how we perceive leadership? Because right from home, our parents never admit to mistakes, they never apologize. They have to find a way around it because they're the ones in charge. Has that translated into how we look at leadership now when we are leaders in whatever spheres we are in?
Thank you, Pastor James, and good morning to all the delegates. And it's a pleasure to be here today. And I do agree with you, because if you came around, she talked about fear of standing out, being too much, fear. For me, mine was going to be fear of failure. Mm-hmm. Because we see in this country, we're talking about it during the breaks, is we celebrate success. Yeah, you talk about our parents, and our parents always being successful. They walked for many kilometers. So for us, you don't want to start something, you don't want to lead. What if I fail? And I dare tell you, it's even worse for women. Mm-hmm. Because women, we've got something called the imposter syndrome. Yes. You hear voices in your head. Yeah. Sorry, pastor is looking at me here. You don't hear voices, you hear the Holy Spirit. Yeah. But women, we hear voices. Yeah, voices from our childhood. Yes. We have baggage. So I think it's that fear of failure is that voice, whether you're a man or woman, to say, what if you fail? Mm-hmm. What if you start this company? What if you start this business? What if I go for this promotion and I don't pass the interview? We do have an ingrained fear of failure that starts from childhood.
Okay. When you look at your leadership journey, Angie, what are some excuses you have made, and how have they affected your journey? And has anybody ever called you out on your excuses?
Those are many personal things, but let's go. I think, first of all, it's both a strength and a weakness. Can it be, that's like an oxymoron. Mm-hmm. So one of the things, the excuses I've given myself as I thought about this, is not believing in myself enough. Yet in other spaces, and especially people looking out, will say that I believe in myself. They would find that very hard to believe. But I think these questions were very reflective for me as well, because I would have gone further, done more, if I had just stepped out there in more boldness, if there's such a word as more boldness. Mm-hmm. So I think one of the excuses is not believing in myself. The other one, I thought about it, it's never been done before. That was a big battle for me. I had to overcome, like, where have you seen that model? Like, who gave you permission to create new models and do new things? Because we like to sort of follow after. This has been done. I can trace the model. But the person actually who helped me with that was a meeting here where there was Dr. Miles Monroe, mm-hmm. and he said that there was no roadmap. He healed me greatly. Mm-hmm. I love coming to such meetings because I must come out with a takeout. And he said there's no roadmap, because that's what I was looking for. Yeah. I was looking for a roadmap. I'm going to follow this path. But there was no path to follow. I had to create my own path. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So that's some of them.
Okay. For you, do you give excuses to yourself, or do you give excuses to the people that you are leading? And which one is worse?
Okay. So I think the first is I have given excuses to myself. Mm-hmm. And one of them was I am not enough. So I live in UK. I came from some ghetto town in Zimbabwe, mm-hmm. right? And went to UK. In Zimbabwe, I was being taught English in my local language. I don't know how the teachers used to do it, but they did. So when I went to UK, now I need to speak English. And I don't think I am good enough to be speaking this English. I am eloquent enough. I think Eric was talking about eloquency, and that became a challenge for me and hindered me for a major part of my career. Mm-hmm. I have been in the UK for 20 years, wow. But some of the things that I'm now doing mm-hmm. is only recent. So because that was the voice that I kept telling myself. Mm-hmm. And I think I'll just add that part of it is to do with your DISC. If people know about the DISC personality assessment, yeah. So I tend to be in my head a lot. So mm-hmm. that doesn't help me. doesn't serve me well.
Okay.
Yeah.
Pastors, you hear there are people who are hearing voices. They're in their heads a lot. We have some work to do. Thinking about those voices, because we all have those inner conversations. And I think for me, one of the things that has shocked me when I talk to people is even just what you've said. That there are people you look up to, but when you talk to them and when they get a bit personal with you, they reveal that they also have doubts. And I'm glad the prof said doubt is not a bad thing. Yeah. Can that work in the negatives such that these voices are there, and so you try to prove to people that I am not this that I'm hearing in here, I am this, and how does that affect one's leadership journey?
So let me give you an example. Thanks, Pastor
Yeah.
James. So back in 2013, back to the issue of the doubt, yeah? So I doubted myself and I doubted the credibility of others. To the question you asked, is it excuses for yourself? Is it
Yeah.
excuses for other people? So in 2013, an opportunity came. I'm a career banker who's grown right from the bottom, made my way through God's help to the top. So I sit in the executive committee of APSA. So back in 2013, an opportunity came up. And I was asked to apply for this particular role, as a director role. And I looked at myself and I said to myself, but how can I be applying? There's already somebody in the same grade who's going to be in the same interview alongside me. Surely wouldn't they give that person? Surely isn't that person a man? Yeah, so he's a man, he's at the grade that I'm going for. Why would I be taken? Another excuse I gave myself is the HR person that doesn't like me.
Oh.
Because I'm outspoken. So I don't think they'll even choose me. So guess what? It's usually like a 2 weeks interview, internal job advertisement. Second last day, I bump into another director who asks me, who had mentored me and asked me, oh, by the way, Christine, have you applied for this role? I said, nah, I wouldn't get it. And they asked me, what's the worst that can happen if you just put in the application? Somebody's just telling me, exactly, I can see that guy there. And I said, yeah, but I think they have somebody in mind. They said, but you know what? You'll have tried. So Pastor James, I tried. Last minute, the last day, I think it's probably 2 hours before the closure, I put in my application. And the rest is history.
Wow.
So that doubt, yeah, those voices in your head, the excuses you give other people, they won't like me, they won't choose me, you know, it's all part of that, you know, you need to confront those voices.
Okay. Yeah. I'm just curious, how many of us go through those moments where you have those conversations with yourself in your head, and there are some excuses you like going to? Maybe it's not the right time, maybe I'm not the right person, maybe I'm overstepping my authority, let somebody else do it. This is the point where you lift up your hand so that you encourage those of us on this side, so that we don't think we are weird. You know, you guys have it all together, us, we are still trying to find our space. So lift them up confidently. Yes, no more excuses, just lift it up. So we are in the right conference with the right kind of people. That is so encouraging. It's encouraging when you realize that you're not the only one, you know, who goes through this kind of conversations in your head. I'm just curious, being in a foreign country and you're a woman,
Yes.
yeah, what kind of influence would you say you have, and how is it impacting lives?
So I am privileged to be working as a fertility nurse. So, and I say privileged because I have evolved and realized that I actually have a lot to give. And this is mostly to do with my own community and the Black community. And when I started as a fertility nurse, which is about 14 years ago, I didn't realize it at that time. One, because I went into a field I didn't quite understand myself. I didn't know what was all this about test tube babies. But as I started and talking and having conversations with people, I started to realize that there is a huge gap. However, the voice that talks to me and tells me I'm not enough kept talking to me that I can't start this awareness campaign, this education campaign that I want. So it took me, I think when I did start was only 6 years ago. And as I said, I've been a fertility nurse for 14 years. So then when I started to realize the impact that I am making, the changes that are happening in people's lives. But one thing that I will also say is that when I started, first of all, I like to hide in the back. I think my country coordinator knows. And so I started my content creation with just posting, I don't know what it's called because I'm not a content creator that well, but I would just write and post, right? Never pictures or videos of myself because I'm shy. And that was an excuse I was giving myself. But now, as I see the impact that the awareness and the education that I'm giving out is making, then now I'm starting to come out of that shell.
I know somebody who loves cameras. I can hook you up. They can train you how not to be afraid. In fact, I'm just...
About me.
What do you think?
But I was very afraid of cameras. Are you aware of that? Very afraid.
Okay.
Completely afraid.
Okay.
But that's taught me, sorry I've jumped in, that sometimes what you fear is your very calling and purpose. So you must interrogate what you fear because there was no reason. But I was very scared of media.
Okay. In fact, I was going to ask you, what are some, because you're also a life coach, leadership coach.
Trainer.
Yeah, so I've come to you and I have issues. I have this doubts in me. What kind of strategies can I employ to overcome some of the excuses I give myself so that I can, go out there and do what I need to do?
So I think it's important, somebody said, one of the speakers, either Dr. Ezekiel or PLO, that you must have mentors. You must have people who have accountability because in order to be less mediocre in life, you need to hang around people who can call out either potential, they can see something that you can't see, and then begin to draw it out. The other thing is I tell people to go to coaching, but they say sometimes they don't have the money to go.
Yeah.
But then you need to find somebody, this mentor that you admire, then you need to go and ask questions that are going to lead to you making change. And there's no point because the power with coaching, first you hear your own voice. So you need to find somebody who can hear these thoughts now, they come out of your head.
Yeah.
And you say them in a space that you consider safe. And then you create actionable timelines of things that you're going to do. So that's the thing with coaching or with mentorship that works well, is that there is progress. You come up with what you want to do, even if it's a pastor, if that's what you do, you find somebody who can hold you accountable. These are the things I'm hearing in my head. These are the things I want to do. These are the things I imagine myself doing, but I don't even understand how I feel like this. Then you begin a process of unpacking that, and then with every step, I loved something else he said, movement. Me, I love movement. Getting stuck is not an option. And you need to look. Like today from the question he asked, Dr. Ezekiel asked, who do people say I am? I'm thinking it's a bit scary, but I think I'm going to create a questionnaire and send it out to people to answer anonymously. I might not like the answers.
Yes.
That's what I'm trying to prepare myself for.
Yeah.
I'm not preparing myself for the positive ones. I'm preparing myself for the negative ones. But then how are we going to, I'm 58 now. I cannot continue without an assessment of who people say I am.
Okay. I'm just... From what Angie has said, I'm just curious, for those of us who are here, how many of us have a coach? Not the majority. And I'm asking that because sometimes I wonder, even for me, with what I am doing and all that, there's the perception that people have. Yeah? I'm now talking about myself, being in the media for the many years I've been in the media. When I walked in, people greeted me. I don't know them from Adam, but they know me. And so there's a picture they have in their mind. And so how does one overcome that fear of finding somebody else that I can sit down with and talk to them about the voices in my head? Because there's a perception people have of me. And I'm thinking now if I begin to do things like that, I'm scared if the people know, then they might change their perception of me.
So 2 answers. One, authentic leadership. You see how we're not authentic?
Uh-huh.
Because we want people to have a certain perception of you, even if it's not true. See, that's not right.
Yeah.
That's why we do things behind closed doors. Or we struggle with things. I mean, it's not right. We have to have a level of authenticity, and this is what, sorry to bring up the Gen Z, but that was the protest, isn't it? What they want is authenticity. Tell us who you are, show us who you are, walk with who we are.
Yeah.
But then on the flip side, you see, immediately you thought about that you're going to be exposed to the world. You have one coach, James.
Yes.
Pastor James, one.
Maybe my coaches are
No,
gossip.
no. You have one coach. Now you say no excuses. No excuses. Now you are bringing in the excuses because it's only one. But that's what happens, isn't
Yes,
it? With
yes.
anything that we do,
Yeah.
we begin to exaggerate
Uh-huh.
the actual reality. We begin to think of what ifs. They have not yet happened, but we must think ahead, and that stops us. That continues us getting stuck. So a professional coach also,
Yeah.
today has been so amazing, has to have a code of ethics. There's a code of ethics for coaching. There's a code of ethics. So if you get a coach, they must follow the code of ethics. And then if you don't have a coach, then find an intentional friend. You want to say an intentional friend or mentor who can take you through this. But it has to be somebody who calls you out. If you go to the people who continuously tell you good things, we're never going to make any movement.
I'm just curious, Christine, do you think it's possible for one to lead with diligence if they haven't gone through that journey, this personal journey we are talking about, where you find somebody to help you unpack your fears, the excuses you give yourself, and all these other things that are internal? Is it possible to lead with diligence without that journey?
Thanks for that question. I think it is possible to lead, but you'll not be effective.
Okay.
So I really think, and I look back at my own career, which spans about 30 years, there are people who've had to call out certain aspects, as painful as they are. And then you work on that, and then you move on to the next thing. And then you get a coach, and they give you some bit. So in every season of your life, I think there's somebody that must call you out. I dare say you have to have an accountability circle. The challenge of us as leaders, and I think we're called, whatever professor was talking to us about, is, he called us megalomaniacs. We get to the point where, you cannot be questioned. Mimi ndio kusema. I'm the one who says. And that's dangerous. So I think at every part of your career, whether you're middle managed, whether you're just starting out your career, whether you're the pastor or the leading pastor, I think there must be people who call you out. People who know you from where you began and say, hey, I think you're going the wrong direction. I think it's very important.
And I think children also are another one. Because I grew up with a millennial in the house. If you have a millennial or Gen Z in your house, those are the people who will tell you who you are.
Absolutely.
If you're brave enough, those ones,
without even asking.
no holds barred. But if you ask also, because maybe they're already sharing what you're just not asking. But if you sit and listen, because I always say in a way that we're also African mothers, there are things my daughter would say, I cannot agree there because I'm an African mother. I cannot agree. But when I go to my room, I'm like, she had a point. I think this is flesh and blood did not reveal that. So I think I need to make some changes here. I may not admit to them. Now the next step is to admit to them. But honestly, your children, because they're very close proximity, and somebody talked about changing your family, you ask your children who you are and be ready for the answers or make them anonymous. You can do a Mentimeter. Have you heard of Mentimeter? Mentimeter.com. You go to menti.com. It's anonymous, so nobody will know who answered. That's a better one because it will be less painful. Pardon? So there's menti.com. If you go to menti.com, you can create a code, and then when you go to Menti, it's going to say sign in. So when you sign in, you put in the code, and then you put a question there, like who do people say I am? So that's what will be asked. Then tell the people to say. So you will not know who answered. So it will be less painful because you won't know. You'll be trying to guess who answered, but you will not know who answered. And then you do it with your kids and your family and your friends, and then look and see areas that you can improve.
But if you have one child,
I have one.
If you only have one child, don't try and be anonymous. It won't work.
So James, can I give you an example?
Okay, and then she can say something.
To her point around children.
Yeah.
I have a 13-year-old, and she'll call you out in the most, roughest of ways.
Yeah.
You make a comment. She tells you, "Mom, that's a racist comment. And you don't think you're being racist, but she'll just tell you, this Gen Z and Gen Alpha, they'll tell it to you on your face, yeah? So I just thought I'll give that point as well.
You wanted to say something, Abby?
Oh, so I was just going to add that, we've been taught since yesterday, I think, about knowledge, that a leader needs you need to have knowledge. So you can't lead with diligence if you yourself, you are not investing in yourself. You have to be someone who is eager to invest in themselves. Sometimes, like, we are all here to invest in ourselves. Reading, I think, there's this saying that if you want to hide something from an African,
yes,
put it in a book, because we hardly read. But those are the things that you as a leader, you need to be doing. You need, if you think reading is not the thing for you, audiobooks, they are there. Listen to them. There are so many means and ways for you to keep adding value to yourself so you can add value to others.
Okay. When you think about leading with diligence in your space, how does that look like? And what would you say are the rewards that you have received from leading with diligence?
So for me, I am a person who loves people. So leading with diligence for me is I need to love and care for people first, because you can't connect with someone. I always say that the one lesson that I believe I took from the Bible, from Jesus, is that the man was poor, he didn't have anything, but he drew crowds. And for me, that lesson is he had love, because everyone and anyone connects to love. So that's the first thing for me, that I need to love people. And I will say, I'll give you an impact story. So I have these women and men that I support through the fertility journey.
Yeah.
And one of them was having issues in her marriage. And I asked some of them to come on a Beyond Success table. So I started a table with some of them. And then we did attitude. And then after attitude, she came back and she said, I was fighting with my husband because infertility is causing a lot of issues in their marriage. And normally, I scream, I shout, all of that. I have drama. But the moment it started, that he started talking to me and shouting or whatever he was doing, I remember that in the lesson, you say that attitude is a choice. So I decided to keep quiet. And later he asked me, what is it that had happened, that had changed? Because that's not my normal response.
Yeah.
And then I told him that I have met this person, Abby, and she has taught me this. And that was profound because its impact. And even today, I see the changes that have happened in her and the transformation, because Beyond Success is a transformational journey.
Yeah.
The transformation that's happening in her life up to today. And this is the impact that, I am looking for. And when I lead with diligence through love, that's what I am hoping that I will live. I want to be remembered as a movement, not as a monument. And so that is
Love
what.
Say that again slowly.
I want to be remembered as a movement,
Yes.
not as a monument. Because a monument, you just come and look and see this. But a movement, it will live beyond me.
Yes.
So that's the legacy that I want to leave.
Wow, I love that. Angie, Abby's talking about love, loving people, having compassion for people. I think one of the problems we have in our continent is the big man syndrome. When I look at leadership from whatever sphere, as long as I get a little title and a little office, I am the man, and you had better recognize. And it becomes about me. So it's more about people serving me than me serving the people and loving the people. Is there a way to reverse that? How do we change that mentality and attitude?
So I think by changing ourselves, and I think for me today, I'm very challenged. I'm challenged because I'm reminded, sometimes when you lead and lead for a long time, I've been doing, I was saying leadership. I think I've done what I do now for 19 years next year. Then I worked in the marketplace for 21. So that's almost 40 years collectively. Wow. But you start getting weary. You get weary, you wonder, will anything ever change? You know, really, what am I doing? And so, but I think it's changing us and changing the community around us. Whoever talked about changing family, because now family, especially in an African context, it's wider than just the nuclear family. Yeah. There's an extended family, there's a community family, there's a marketplace family. So I think it's making that change for yourself, asking, am I serving or am I being served? Because we have been reminded here over and over again today, leadership is about serving others. It's not about being served. And so we start with us. I think if everyone in this room, I don't know how many we are, but if each and every one of us took that mentality and then modeled it to our community, because that's what we have in Africa. Yeah. We have the ability to model to people who, even if you ask them if they're following you as a leader, they probably say no, but they are watching what you do, they are hanging out with you, so we do what we see other people doing. So I think if we do that, there can be a change, but we need to change. I remember one of the questions I asked Professor Pielo Lulumba, I just had to go and ask, like, really, is there hope? Like, we look like we missed this thing called Pan-Africanism. We missed the opportunity. How do we regain that and do this again? But he said there always has to be hope, which I think is true, which is what also, if you looked at Christianity is about, there always has to be hope. And it's offering people hope. And people are looking for hope. Yeah. So if we do it ourselves, so like now I'm always fighting with my sometimes protocol team about carrying my bag. I can carry my own bag. Why can't I carry my own bag? I have two hands. What is the problem? I can carry it. You know, that just stand down, you know? Stand down, don't. Because then if I do it myself, then it will become something. Sometimes when I'm invited like to minister somewhere, because I'm a marketplace minister, and also the realization that I'm not called to the Jews, I'm called to the Gentiles. So my behavior may not be Jewish. Yes. My behavior is Gentileness, if I say that. Yes. So even if I go to minister somewhere, they'll say there's a holding room. And I say, I'm not going to the holding room. And it's caused a lot of problems. I'm not going to the holding room. Yes. I am going into, is the meeting taking place right now? That's where I'm going. Let's go there. I want to be part of the worship. I want to hear what other people are saying. Today when Lydia invited me, she told me the panel was at 11. I was here at 9. Why? I want to hear what everybody else said. I want to be in the flow. So that could be, so just finding things that are trying to demarcate you and lift you up. You said we have Jehovah complex. Anything, try remove the Jehovah complex. Yeah, just remove it. But the onus is on us, because the people around us will want to honor you. They want to do things for you, but you can do them for yourself, or you can teach them to do them for yourself. Or what have you done for somebody else to make them feel important? You know, even let me not start, but even the chairs I'm so glad all the chairs are the same here. Hallelujah. Isn't that a good thing? Because you go to places, already the chair is showing you're a lesser human being.
You're not enough.
You're not enough. And we're trying to kill this, I'm not enough. Why can't we be all equal? What happened if one day you bring all the people sit at the back to the front of your church? What will happen? Will the church collapse? It won't collapse. We'll still keep moving. And people will think they're important.
Okay. Christine, values. Let's talk about values before we run out of time. Yes. What's the place of values in the journey of leadership? And what values have you subscribed to, and how have they impacted your leadership journey?
Thank you. So values are the anchor. I think they're the anchor on which you base your leadership. And they'll determine what people will say about you. So one of the key values for me is integrity. And you know, I was going to call them colleagues, but delegates in this room. I think we talked about it in one of our earlier breakouts. I think a value is not a value until it costs you. It must cost you, guys. So for one of my values is integrity. And let me tell you, Pastor James, that value has cost me. It's cost me popularity. Dr. Ezekiel, you told us leadership is not popularity. It's not about popularity. But guess what? We are all human beings. We all want to belong. When you stand out and speak out, and you say, in this particular network of branches, I don't like what's happened in this branch because I think there's some funny, fishy stuff going on. Whoa. You're going against the grain, eh? Yeah. You're going against the grain. You're spoiling things. We are doing sales. Why are you asking hard questions? And I've had to call it out. and persist, you know. I'm like, I want disciplinary action taken on these things that have gone wrong. And it puts you in a corner where you're being told, you look like a spoiler. But guess what? I have led this revolution of saying we're going to hold people accountable for what you book, for the loans you book, for how you interact with clients. If you have unethical behavior, we must take you through discipline. It's not easy. But guess what? The wheels are changing. The culture of accountability. As a Christian, I don't see why on one day we're like, okay, we don't want to speak about it. You know, if I speak up, I rattle everybody. So I'm driving accountability. Equally, I'm a patron of the Christian movement of our church, of our APSA community. And for the longest time, it was a community of nice, cozy fellowship.
Yeah.
We are 20, 15 of us, we meet, we are all going to heaven, hallelujah.
Hallelujah.
You know? But Jesus came for the lost, eh? She talked about not only the Jews and the Gentiles. So for me, my legacy will be we've created a Christian movement that goes for the lost, that leaves the 99 and goes for the one. Because that's the thing about Christianity. Yeah. We make it all cozy. It's about all ourselves and everything else. But I'm trying to say, guys, let's create a movement. Yeah, let's rise above our comfort zone. So my values are integrity, professionalism, collaboration. I drive a lot of collaboration in my team, you know, and then building great teams. I think that's one of the things I value for, and I'll be remembered for.
Okay. Yeah. Angie, when we talk about values, I'm sure you've gone to an office and you saw a signboard written, "This is a corruption-free zone." And you know, let me brace myself, because things are not always what they seem like. And when we talk about values, I think if you talk to a lot of people, they can tell you the values that are in our heads. Yeah? But now, as in Kenya we say, kwa ground mambo ni different. On the ground, things are different. Yeah. How do we bridge that disconnect? Because it's not like we don't know the values, we know them. But now when we are living them out, we don't subscribe to them, we do something else. What's the disconnect and how do we bridge it?
I think it's what she said, it's calling people out also.
So
if you've got signs here, first of all, means there's been corruption. That's why you're going to brace yourself. That's why they've had to put the stickers. Yeah. But then it's just calling them out and then saying, if this is a corruption-free zone, then I'm not going to give in to any form of corruption, and calling it out and saying, you know, because there's another thing in Kenya culture where we don't like to tell on each other. Yeah. We don't like to say this person has done wrong. We don't like to call it out. So there's no authenticity. There's no, like, no, this is not right. You don't have to shout. I like attitude, but we can also tell you you're wrong. And we can say, we're not going to do this, and I'm not going to participate in this. You know, that's what we need to do. We need to find people with value, and they're there. Somebody talked about stories, that we don't tell enough stories. Yeah. So we don't tell, that's why, like, even for what I do on Just Angie, I tell stories of people who people will not tell stories about. People who are just doing things, inspiring people. So there's so many stories. I think it's Dr. Zek who said, but media doesn't like good stories.
No, they don't sell.
They want stories that have a lot of sensationalism.
Yes.
So I think that's the thing. We have to tell the stories. We have to inspire others. We have to be, when we go out there on social media, we have to be truthful. We have to be authentic. We have to be vulnerable. I get people writing in to me and saying, oh, Pastor Angie, please don't overshare. Wow, it's my platform. Wow. Wow. Wow, Kenyans. The oversharing is making them uncomfortable. Yes. So don't be so vulnerable. That is the advice they're giving me. No, the whole idea is to be vulnerable. The whole idea is to be authentic. The whole idea is to be a leader who people can call out, but also bringing other people who are doing things. They don't even think they're doing something great. Yeah. But the inspiration is that people leave there feeling inspired. They see somebody else doing it, and therefore they're encouraged. So that's what we need to do. We need to tell our stories. We need to model. We need not to compromise. We need to be... I heard one time my pastor saying that it would be so good if you came to church on the pulpit and said, me and my wife have been fighting all the way here. Hallelujah. We shall sit now. Wow. That is good teaching right there. Because you haven't told... You come fighting?
Yes.
Then when we come, then you put on your church face. You know, you have to get to the door now, you put on, you already have your church clothes. So now, church face na inaingia. And then now we cannot, who can be fighting? We are not fighting. We are hallelujah, praise the Lord, brother and sister.
Hallelujah.
But just imagine if we were authentic and came in and said, actually, we've been fighting all the way here. So now, how do we solve this? Because half the congregation probably, they have been fighting all the way here.
Yes.
So now we're actually going to solve a problem.
Yes.
But it's our authenticity, our not being vulnerable, our trying to hide things that we have to change. But I think we're changing. We have to change. We have to feel like we have hope.
Yeah.
And the Gen Zs really helped us. They helped us. I was praying for them, but I was helped.
Yes.
And I never realized how much fear I had until I saw them protesting.
Yeah.
Is when I realized, my goodness,
Yes.
I was brought up on fear. Fear. Because their boldness made me question me.
Yeah. Okay. Our time is almost up. I'll give each one of you a minute. I'll begin with you, Abby. What would your parting shot be? How would you sum up this conversation?
I think one of the things, well, what I will say is that we need to be self-aware as leaders. So when you are self-aware, it helps you, the no excuses, because you know who you are. You know where your strengths are. You know where your weaknesses are. And that's where you start from. So when you know your strengths, you know that, okay, I am good at this, so maximize that. But I need to work on my weaknesses. And that will help you. The authenticity that we're talking about starts from that. You can't be authentic if you don't know yourself. You can't give what you don't have. So it has to start with you. And then also, you say, changing the culture.
Yeah.
If we are changing the culture, it also needs to start with us as individuals, translating to our families, our communities. It only takes one person to impact another one person and start a ripple effect for change to start to happen. And that's my parting remark.
Awesome. Christine.
So my parting shot is really, I think, one of the last, the last speech by PLO, Professor Lumumba, he talked about no one will remember you for being a coward. I think we need to live here re-energized to say, you know what, we do not have a spirit of fear in us. I think a spirit of courage is required. It means we must challenge the status quo. It will not be easy, but I think we must do it afraid. So feel the fear, but do it anyway, is my parting shot.
Awesome.
I think for me is, from what all they've said, is that there are people waiting on the other side of your obedience. There's an obedient action that you need to take, because it's that lead with no excuses, lead with diligence. So first I'd say also, list down all the excuses, if you dare, that you have made. Just write them down, even just this year, the last 5 years, the last 3 years, because there's people waiting, really thirsty people on the other side of your obedience. So you have to be obedient. You have to make no more excuses, lead with diligence and move. And maybe just to say, stop also going to seek, is it voters? What's that thing that we seek from people? You want affirmations from people, yes? You want them to approval, validation, so that you know what it is that you're being called to do. You want to go and seek out other people. When God called you, whatever he's telling you, even in that your head, in your head is a good place. Downloads have come into the head. Yes. Somebody is communicating to you. Hopefully it's the Holy Spirit communicating to you. They didn't communicate to everybody else. So you need to take what it is that they are saying, unpack it, and execute it with excellence. That would be my parting shot.
Great. Let's give them a big round of applause. Thank you. Thank you so much, ladies, for your input and for speaking to us. I hope you've learned something. Me, I've learned a lot. I was recording here. I will go and put those voices are the new voices in my head to help counter the other voices. But thank you very much. Truly appreciate you. I will hand it back to the MC.